We bring on Joel Klatt, the voice of college football for Fox. I'm not going to say it was the governor who called me. Yeah, it was my friend. But it is, for the record.
Very important.
I think we both agree with this. USC is the third best team in that conference. Yeah. These are the two best teams.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, that's what the rankings suggest, and I certainly believe that as well. Oregon's probably the most balanced team.
Yes.
And then Washington has this rare ability to be, I think, the scariest team out there just because of how high-end their passing game can be. This passing game for Michael Penix, I was actually talking about this on my show earlier this week. Colin, he's a great passer of the football, Michael Penix Jr. Right. And there's a difference. We always talk about throwers. Oh, he can make every throw. He's got great arm talent. This is how we talk about it in the draft, so on and so forth. Penix, yes, can do all those things, but he's also a great passer, like a great point guard. If you actually watch him play, the leverage with which he delivers the ball is always the proper leverage, away from the defender, communicating with his ball placement. It's away from defense in terms of what the structure of the defense is. He's always giving his guy a chance to win. It's not just highlights either. It's like you watch his game tape and every throw is leveraged properly, and that's why they're so good. They've got great weapons on the outside.
3 NFL receivers, 3. I looked at a mock draft yesterday, 2 first round, 1 third round.
And McMillan's coming back, and he's one of those guys that got Polk, McMillan, Adunze. They're really, really good, but Oregon's super balanced and probably overall a better team. But if they can win up there in that environment, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, Autzen the loudest stadium in the Pac-12. Washington is second.
Yeah.
So it is an advantage. Now, I just saw a stat today in the NFL that home field advantage in the NFL is down to about a point to a point and a half because teams now travel so much better. The players are more rested, hydrated. And secondly, you can put stuff through the helmet now. Quarterbacks can hear the crowd. So the NFL home field doesn't mean nearly as much as it did when we grew up. In college, to take a 20-year-old and put him in Husky Stadium.
Massive.
It is gigantic.
It's massive. And you're right on all accounts. And when I talk with college football coaches, they'll talk about how difficult it is to just win on the road, period. It can be, Washington was in a one-possession game with Arizona. Why? It's on the road. Yeah, right. You see the Ohio State Notre Dame. Part of what made that such a great win for Ohio State is that it was on the road. You see how difficult it was for Notre Dame to win at Duke, and then Louisville the next week, they go out there and basically get blown out. That's why it's going to be so difficult for Oregon. Here's something to just pay attention to early in the game. If I'm Dan Lanning, I'm going to go out there and take the ball as quickly as I can. Normally, people defer the toss. If you win the toss, if you're the Oregon Ducks, take the ball. Try to quiet the crowd, and then limit the possessions that Michael Penix gets. This is what Arizona did, and this is what they can do with a run game that's averaging 220 yards per game. Like, they can run the ball at Oregon. They play solid defense, and their quarterback, Bo Nix, I have him in my top 6 in the Heisman Trophy. He might not be the high-end talent that Penix is, but boy, as far as a game manager and an operator and playing with efficiency, this guy's at the top of the list. The ball comes out on time and on target. He makes plays with his legs.
Franklin's a really clever receiver.
This is as good a matchup as you'll get in college football, right? We'll have Penn State, Ohio State next week. This is right there with that type of matchup. The winner of this game is a true, without a doubt, national championship caliber team.
Biggest game in the Northwest in a long time. There's no surprise that I was called and asked to visit.
I mean, some would say you were begged to come up there and visit.
I would say that, but nobody else would. Okay.
I'll back you up.
I think you and I agree. You get to week 4 or 5 in college football, and then there are just things that are true.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's O-line, not great. USC's defense, can't tackle. A lot of that, in my opinion, is they're asking safeties and corners to make too many tackles.
That's right.
So what's happening is big back, big tight end breaks a tackle from a 190-pound corner. I think the reality is Notre Dame this weekend, I thought, was a really good matchup for USC. I think they beat teams with good defenses and a limited offense. I think they lose to teams like Washington or a team like a Michigan that can drop 40. But now the weather, 25-mile-an-hour wind.
Raining
sideways. USC could be in trouble here. That weather is built for Notre Dame.
No doubt. No doubt. And in particular, when you're looking at a defense, USC's strength defensively, if they have one, is getting after the passer.
Yep.
Okay, they can get to the pass. They got 22 sacks. That's third in the country. The problem is that when you strip away their sack numbers, those of you that don't know, and if you just are in the NFL space, in college, for some dumb reason, they take the sack numbers and put them into the rushing numbers. So if you get negative yards because you're getting sacked, then that goes against your rushing yards. Well, same with rush defense, right? So sacks count for your rushing defense.
Right.
If you strip the sacks out
of USC's
defense,
they don't defend the run either.
They do not. In fact, they're 106th in the country defending the run. And now you're going into a place where there's 25-mile-an-hour winds, there's rain sideways, and then Estime on the other side, a quality offensive line on the other side with a couple of guys that could be first round. Certainly
Joe
a first rounder.
Tackle's a top 10 pick.
And like, this is not a good matchup for USC at all.
Not in a rainstorm.
No.
You put it on a dry turf, 74 degrees, I take USC.
Sure.
I literally look at that rain forecast Tuesday, and I'm like, oh, USC's in trouble.
The other part of this that I don't think we've talked enough about with USC, because we center so much of the conversation either around Caleb Williams or the defense. Right? That's what we talk about with USC. And yet, what we've missed is in the last couple of weeks when they haven't been themselves on the offensive side of the ball, they've been missing that sensational true freshman Zachariah Branch.
Oh, he really changes the offense.
100%. And what you saw last week against Arizona was a wide receiver core that could not get open against man coverage. They did not have Branch. They missed him. He's been practicing. It's unclear whether he's going to play in this game. Obviously, the conditions won't lend itself to a guy trying to come back like that. But that if he's not on the field, then Notre Dame has the advantage in a major way. The only thing that I would point to from the Trojans' perspective is that Notre Dame is at the tail end of what has been a bit of a gauntlet over the last 4 weeks.
Yes.
Ohio State, Duke, Louisville, 2 of those on the road.
Yeah, they're beat
win
up.
1 of them, lose 2 of them, and now all of a sudden you've got to come right back and play at a high level.
All right. Texas, Oklahoma. So first of all, I thought Oklahoma had a better game plan. They got blown out last year. They played with a chip. I thought they were smart. Not as many turnovers. But in the end, I'm like, okay, Texas lost on the final play. They butchered that, first and goal. They had 3 turnovers. If they played again, I'd take Texas. And so would the odds makers. But in the end, what do I do? Because I think they're going to play again.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do too.
Look at their schedule. The Big 12's bad. They're going to play again.
They will play again. And then it'll come down to the same exact things. Turnovers and situations.
And Oklahoma was better Saturday.
And Oklahoma was better in that regard on Saturday. I thought that Dylan Gabriel played a sensational game.
Well, way above what I thought he was.
He is.
How about that final drive?
The final drive was tremendous.
Master.
He makes quick decisions.
Yep.
He hurt Texas with his feet. They've got to fix that. And he outplayed Quinn Ewers. Now, I don't think that this is a sign that, Ewers can't play in these games. Ewers, outside of a couple of mistakes, played really well. I mean, I think he was like 31 of 38.
I didn't think he was the problem.
He wasn't. Their failure in the red zone, they turn the ball over in the red zone, and they get a 4th and goal that they don't get.
Let's be honest. What really hurt Texas was they couldn't make stops in the second half when they needed to. That final drive by Oklahoma deserves credit. That was pathetic. That was 7-on-7. It was 5 plays and 75 yards.
Well, that's the strength of OU is that outside, and Andrell Anthony going down for them. He got hurt, his knee. That's not going to help. I just give Oklahoma a lot of credit because I thought Texas. My sentiment before last week was not about Oklahoma. It was about the fact that I really believed in Texas and what they were and what they had shown during the course of the season. No, I do. I just think that's what makes it so impressive what Oklahoma was able to do. I think Texas, everything's still in front of them. If I'm Texas, think about it this way. There's nothing off the board for Texas. Now, do they have margin? No. So they're backed into the corner a little bit. If Texas has a win over Alabama, they win the Big 12, only have 1 loss.
Last play of the game.
And the championship is over the team that they lost to. They're going to the playoff.
Absolutely.
So nothing is lost for Texas other than the fact that they now have no margin for error. You can't go lay a stinker at some road environment that you're not prepared to play in.
Yeah, Oklahoma didn't get on the phone and dial up that game, so they have to beat Texas a second time, which is really hard.
Stop.
Well, no, I've seen this. Baylor's down, TCU's down.
Well, I thought that was that a knock on the schedule?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they had Georgia scheduled, and they had to take that off because of the conference realignment. So they had Georgia scheduled. They had Georgia's OU. I'm not going to let them just take a shot at your schedule. You had Georgia scheduled, didn't come to fruition. That's why Georgia's schedule is so cake.
No, it's funny. Texas still figured out a way to play Bama.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I won't be going to Oklahoma in the near future. Okay. First of all, Jim Harbaugh is more valuable to college football than pro football.
I agree with that.
So I want him to stay at Michigan. Here's the thing. You pretend you're Harbaugh. You're a good-looking, successful guy. I'm going to be the athletic director. No. Let's reverse it. Okay, I'm Harbaugh. You're the athletic director at Michigan. Ring, ring, ring. You be the athletic director about a new extension.
Hello?
What's up? What can I help you for? You want the new extension.
Wait, I thought
You're the athletic director.
Oh, yeah. I mean, whatever you want. You want 10 years?
It's
you
funny because the
million?
last time we talked, you wanted me to take a pay cut.
No, I've given you an extension since then and increased your pay, and now we're obviously
Can we talk about that
bit.
pay cut?
Well, we got it back in the form of incentives, Jim, and you bet on yourself.
Incentives.
And,
I needed to prove
you bet on yourself, and you certainly
Bowl.
succeeded. And now I'm willing to make you the highest paid coach in the Big Ten.
How about some incentives from my side? I'm incentivized to get you out of here.
No. Do
you think their relationship's rocky?
No, I think it's actually improving. Of late, it's improving, and I would not be surprised if in the very near future there's a pretty hefty extension announced.
That's good for the sport.
It's great for the sport. Now, I'll be interested on what the buyout is, from Harbaugh's side. So let's say the buyout is lower. Let's say he signs a deal, and I've heard it's going to be north of anyone in the Big Ten. So that'll be about $10.5 million a year.
That's second to Saban.
It would be about second to Saban, right in there. I think that Kirby and Saban and Dabo and Ryan Day are the top four. They're all about 10.
I'd like to get more than Ryan Day since I own him.
Okay, so I think that's part of this. What you'll want to watch for once this extension is announced at some point, and I don't know if it's imminent, but I know that it's in conversation. What's the buyout number for Jim? If it's less than $10 million, then I don't know, because any NFL organization is going to go and swoop in there and offer more than that and be willing to pay more than that.
I know people think it's outrageous to pay a football coach that. That stadium was half full with Brady Hoke. They are Michigan football right now. In Los Angeles this weekend, I saw 6 Michigan hats.
Well,
that guy, Michigan football is back.
This notion that these coaches are paid too much is false, and the numbers bear that out. I'm not just a football guy. The numbers bear that out. You go look at, and I've brought this up before. Student enrollment at Alabama since Nick Saban became their head coach has gone up drastically. In fact, they've got around 11 or 12,000 more students now in undergrad than they did in undergrad when Nick Saban became their head coach.
At $50,000 a pop.
Well, and even conservatively, if that's around $20,000, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars annually, $250 million annually to the university. University of Colorado, their applications are up 50-60% because of Deion Sanders. Wow. That's hundreds of millions of dollars to the university. So the fact that people balk at like $9 or $10 million for a coach that means that much to the university, and in particular when the football program is the front porch of the university when you're enrolling applicants, pound sand. That's a drop in the bucket for these institutions.
Let's go look at your top 10 here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now,
you don't like it? You don't like it?
A little reactionary with Texas. You don't think they're as good as USC?
I mean, I may have rewarded the undefeateds a little bit more than Texas. But when you lose, you lose.
Let me see. Well,
I mean, USC didn't lose.
Penn State above Ohio State.
I did. I switched that. I moved Georgia from 3 last week back up to 1 because they proved that they've got 5th gear again. You know what Georgia reminded me a little bit of last week? Do you remember Usain Bolt in his prime? Remember he wasn't a great starter because of his long legs?
Right,
and so, like, he would be, like, 4th out of the blocks.
Right.
And then all of a sudden in the middle of the race, you were just like, oh, that guy's faster than everybody. Right. That's a little bit of what Georgia did last week against Kentucky. They're like, oh, wait, is everyone doubting us? Oh, really? Okay, I'll tell you what. Kentucky, ranked team, everyone thinks very highly of. Come on over here to Athens, and then they're like, lock the gates behind them and watch this. That's what Georgia did last week, and that's why I put them back up there.
I could pick on Mario Cristobal. I'm not. I want to talk about this. The Big Ten released their home and away matchups for post realignment. And I said this last week. College football, if it's a stock, buy it. So this is a big thing for me. Here's what I don't like. I'm not a far left guy or a far right guy. What I don't like is the left and the right politically selling fear. NIL is going to ruin the sport. Transfer portal is going to ruin the sport. Conference realignment is going to ruin the sport. I looked at the Big Ten schedule next year.
Oh, my gosh.
There's like 10 games I'm going to schedule my Saturdays around.
That's
Nothing
right.
against USC, Oregon State, because I love Oregon State. Great program. Oregon, Wisconsin, Washington, Michigan, USC, Michigan. Look at these new matchups I get. I didn't even mention UCLA, who, by the way, now is playing real football.
That's right.
You start looking at some of these. These are late night networks fighting over them. Fox, whatever network. These are massive. Camp Randall, the Shoe, the Coliseum, Husky Stadium.
And if you're watching right now, the matchups that are on the screen, those are just the matchups that now include the West Coast teams. That doesn't even include Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. You know, all these different matchups. It's really incredible what's going to happen in college football. I would also buy stock in this sport. And to your point about NIL and transfer portal, it has been remarkably good for the sport. Think about Michigan, who I'm about to go cover this week. In large respect, the reason why they are so deep and veteran is because of NIL. Now, they don't, and I don't want to say this definitively, but they would rather pay their current players really good NIL dollars rather than promise NIL dollars to a high school recruit.
I totally agree with that system.
Philosophy, right? And so, well, because of that, Blake Corum hurts his knee last year, and he has a choice. Am I going to go to the NFL? His coach tells him to go to the NFL, both of them. Mike Hart is running back coach, and Jim Harbaugh. Go to the NFL. You're ready. You have nothing left to prove here. But coming off a knee injury, he's probably going to be a 4th or 5th round pick.
Now he's a 2nd round pick.
Now he's probably a 2nd round pick, but it's not just where you're picked because it's also about the money you can make this year. He can make more in NIL dollars at Michigan being Blake Corum, Heisman contender, than he's going to be as a 5th round draft pick at you name the NFL city.
So what we're going to get is some of these star players who are really good players, the opposite of college basketball, where anybody just has a glimpse of good, they're out.
That's right.
Now, if you're great, but it's a loaded class at your position,
you can stay.
I can stay free. So college football is doing the opposite of college basketball. You think there's all this mobility, but more good players will come back. I mean, Shedeur Sanders could be drafted. He can make $10 million staying at Colorado.
And this is such a loaded quarterback class. Mark my words. A really good quarterback is going to come back to college next year, maybe multiple, because the class is so loaded, and they're sitting there thinking to themselves, why? I know what I can make. Why be a middle round pick when I can go improve my stock, stay here, make the same money I would make in the NFL, and be a college quarterback? So NIL has been big, and then also transfer portal. I think transfer portal has allowed more teams to play at the top end because you've got a bigger what's the word? A bigger impact in transfers all over the country.
How about this? This will sound like a cheap shot, but it's honest.
Uh-oh.
So get ready for this.
Buckle up.
What changed in college football is now everybody can pay their players, not just the SEC. Am I wrong? You know, that's what's happened. Everybody's like, the SEC is weaker. No, everybody else is buying guys now, too. Not through the church. It's through a car dealer. Am I wrong?
The church one is so good. I'm not naming any names, but they would literally pass the hat in a church, and then it would cross by a booster, and it was just like, there's...
Went into some bat tunnel and ended up to a running back.
I tell you, man. I tell you.
I
don't think you're wrong. I'll just say that.
Okay.
And I know that sounds, hyperbolic and everything. You are not wrong.
Basically,
other conferences govern themselves very different than the way the SEC govern themselves.
Now everybody, literally, the coach of Kentucky's like, we just want to buy more good players.
And he said it after the game.
And you can do it.
Yes.
I don't think that was a hot take. That'll make
it might have been your most accurate.
It is.
Accurate
Everybody
take.
can now buy players.
It's true.
It's right up front. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.